If you are considering using FBA, short for Fulfillment by Amazon, this refers to the model in which Amazon manages the entire order fulfillment process on your behalf. In this setup, Amazon stores your inventory, takes care of packaging, labeling, and shipping, and also provides full customer service support. Your main responsibility is to send your products to Amazon's fulfillment centers. Before any products can be shipped to those centers, you are required to create a shipping plan. Within Seller Central, this task is performed through the Send to Amazon shipment creation workflow, which functions in the same way as a shipping plan. A shipping plan informs Amazon about what items you are sending, the quantity of units expected, and the identity of the sender. In order to create this plan, the first step is setting up a product listing. This listing is what shoppers will see on the Amazon website. The process of creating a listing is not always simple. You are required to provide a valid product identifier. This might be a UPC barcode, or if your brand and category are eligible, you may instead request a GTIN exemption. Because many new sellers often find this step confusing, I will explain which barcodes are needed, how many may be required, what terms like UPC, EAN, and FNSKU mean, and where these codes can be purchased. These questions frequently arise, especially for sellers handling single products, multiple variations, or bundled items. In this lesson, I will clear up the details so you can remain compliant and avoid problems later. Let us start with Amazon's barcode requirements. Any seller on Amazon, whether using FBA, where Amazon stores and ships your items, or FBM, where you manage your own storage and shipping, must provide a valid product ID for each product. This may be a standard GTIN, such as a UPC or EAN, or an approved GTIN exemption. Amazon's guidelines state that barcodes are used by FBA to identify and track inventory. Every single item sent to a fulfillment center must carry a barcode. Even if you are not using FBA, a valid product identifier is still required on the product listing. For products stored and shipped through FBA, you must use one of the following options: a manufacturer barcode, such as a UPC, EAN, GTIN, or ISBN, or an Amazon barcode, also known as the FNSKU. There is also another option called the transparency barcode, which I will cover later. However, in practice, the most common choices are the manufacturer barcode and the Amazon barcode. A manufacturer barcode, such as a UPC, EAN, GTIN, or ISBN, is the universal code you have seen on nearly every product. This is the code scanned at retail checkout counters. Every item in global retail requires its own unique barcode, so that stores can distinguish between products. You can think of the barcode as similar to a social security number for a person or a vehicle identification number for a car. It is always unique. When you sell wholesale or arbitrage products, like Xbox consoles or Nike shoes, these already come with UPC barcodes on their packaging. Because these codes are standardized, the same Xbox console UPC is identical across the globe. By contrast, if you sell private label products, meaning your own branded items, those do not have UPCs by default. In that case, you need to purchase UPCs and add them to your product packaging, or if eligible, you may apply for a GTIN exemption. The Amazon barcode, or FNSKU, stands for Fulfillment Network Stock Keeping Unit. This is a scannable code that Amazon uses solely within its fulfillment network to manage inventory. FNSKUs are not recognized outside of Amazon. If you tried to scan one at a store like Costco or Walmart, it would not register. By default, Amazon tracks eligible inventory using the manufacturer barcode, unless you manually change the barcode setting. This means that your inventory will be pooled together with other sellers offering the same product. For instance, if you sell an Xbox console using the manufacturer barcode, your inventory will be combined with units supplied by other sellers. If another seller sends in defective products, your customers might receive them, which could result in negative reviews that harm your account. To avoid this risk, you can opt to use the Amazon barcode, the FNSKU, which ensures that your inventory is tracked separately from that of other sellers. Amazon specifically states that its barcode must be applied to any product not being tracked with a manufacturer barcode. Regardless of whether your business model is wholesale, arbitrage, or private label, it is generally recommended to use the Amazon barcode, the FNSKU, to maintain control over your inventory. Amazon's packaging rules require that each FNSKU be unique and assigned to one specific product. For example, each size or color variation must have its own distinct FNSKU. Just like a social security number, no two products can share the same FNSKU. Each unit must display a scannable barcode with human-readable numbers placed on the outer packaging. You must ensure that any other barcodes are either removed, covered, or made unscannable. Only one barcode should remain visible. If you are applying FNSKU labels, simply place them over the manufacturer's UPC. For wholesale or arbitrage items, you can use the UPC that is already printed on the packaging. To list those products, you simply enter the UPC, locate the correct listing, and add your inventory. With private label products, however, you must purchase UPCs because your manufacturer will not provide them. Alternatively, you might qualify for a GTIN exemption if your brand and category meet the requirements. When buying UPCs, you must purchase them directly from GS1. Amazon checks all UPCs against the GS1 database. If you obtain UPCs from unauthorized resellers, the numbers may not align with GS1 records, which could lead to your listings being removed or even your account being suspended. In the United States, GS1 sells individual GTINs for $30 with no renewal fees. Other countries have their own pricing models. For example, GS1 UK requires an annual membership with tiered fees. It is important not to cut corners here. Do not rely on third-party resellers or apply for exemptions unless you genuinely qualify. Now, how many UPCs are necessary? There are 4 main situations to consider. Single product. If you sell one item, such as a single blue pillow, it requires only one UPC regardless of the number of units you sell. Variations. If you offer variations, such as a blue pillow and a red pillow, each variation must have its own UPC. Different products. Each unique product, like a pillow and a shirt, must have its own UPC bundles. A multi-pack or bundle counts as one unit and requires a single UPC for the entire pack. For example, if you sell 2 shirt designs, each offered in 3 sizes, you will need 6 UPCs in total. Once a UPC has been purchased, it is permanently assigned to that listing and cannot be reused. If Amazon does not immediately recognize a newly purchased UPC, you may need to wait between 24 and 72 hours for the GS1 database to update. For private label sellers, GS1 provides a PDF file of your UPCs, which can be printed onto your product packaging or labels. FNSKUs, on the other hand, are not purchased. They are automatically generated inside Seller Central when you create your listing. To activate FNSKUs, go to Settings, choose Fulfillment by Amazon, then select FBA Product Barcode Preference and set it to Amazon Barcode. Next, from your inventory management page, choose Print Item Labels next to the product to download the FNSKU PDF. This file can then be sent to your manufacturer or printer to have the labels applied to your packaging. Every variation of your product will have its own unique FNSKU, which normally remains the same for the lifetime of that product under a single SKU. An important detail to remember is that FNSKUs begin with the letter X. If your label instead begins with B0, that code represents the ASIN, not the FNSKU. To correct this, you may need to create a new offer or condition and then print the correct label. Always ensure that only one barcode is visible on your product. If you are using FNSKUs, cover the manufacturer's UPC. If you also sell products in retail stores that require UPCs, you can design your packaging to display the UPC by default and simply cover it with the FNSKU label for the unit sent to Amazon. Finally, note that physical barcodes are only mandatory for FBA shipments. For FBM, where you handle shipping directly to customers, physical barcodes are not required on the items themselves. However, you must still have a valid product ID, such as a UPC, EAN, or approved exemption on your Amazon listing. If you are selling your own branded items in physical retail stores, it is necessary to have a UPC or an EAN printed on your packaging. On the other hand, if you are only offering your branded items on Amazon, such as private label products, there is a frequent misconception that you must provide a GTIN, UPC, or EAN in order to create a listing. In reality, Amazon gives you the option to request what is known as a GTIN exemption. This exemption allows you to create your listing without attaching a UPC or EAN, and it can help you avoid paying the often high fees charged by GS1. When you begin setting up a brand name listing, 2 key fields are required: brand name and external product ID. The external product ID is essentially another name for a GTIN, UPC, or EAN. Your first step is to type in your brand name. You will also notice an option that says, "This product does not have a brand name." If you select that option, Amazon will mark the listing as generic, which means your brand name will not appear on the product page unless you later receive formal approval through Amazon systems. This generic selection is acceptable in cases where you are listing an unbranded item or a bundle that does not belong to a single brand. However, if you are a private label seller and want your brand name visible, you should avoid choosing the generic option and make sure your actual brand name is entered. The next requirement is to add either a UPC or an EIN. At this stage, you will also see a choice labeled, "I do not have a product ID." When you select this and continue, Amazon will generate two types of error messages. The first error message will state, "Brand name approval required." This means you have entered a brand name that has not yet been officially approved by Amazon, so you must apply to have permission to list under that brand name. The second error message will say, "GTIN Exemption required." This appears because you indicated that your product does not have a product ID, which means you need to apply for Amazon's approval to list the product without one. If your goal is to list a branded product without purchasing a GS1 GTN, there is a two-step process you must complete. Step 1 is brand name approval, and Step 2 is GTIN Exemption application. Step 1, brand name approval, can be done in two ways. Option 1 is to enroll in Amazon Brand Registry, which is the method Amazon recommends. You can register if you own an active trademark or if you have filed a trademark application through an accepted intellectual property office. If you already hold either a registered or pending trademark, it is strongly advised to complete brand registry first, before adding listings. Option 2 is to request brand name approval directly inside Seller Central. This is an option for sellers who do not yet have a trademark. Amazon can still approve the use of your brand name on listings, even without one. Keep in mind, though, that this pathway is limited and does not provide the extra protections and features of brand registry. To begin applying for brand approval, you need to click the Apply to Sell button. This opens up the application page. It is important to review this page carefully, and Amazon also includes a short tutorial video to guide you. You may add your brand's website if available. Next, you must choose the appropriate category for your product, select it, and then continue. The last requirement in this stage is to provide photographs of your branded product or its packaging. Amazon has specific rules for these images. The brand name displayed on the product or its packaging must match exactly with the brand name you are applying for. Even small differences, such as spacing into two words, may cause rejection. The photos must be taken by you. They need to look natural, either handheld or placed on a table. Professional studio images are not necessary. A simple phone camera picture of the product or its packaging is sufficient. The branding must be permanently attached, such as being stamped, stitched, printed, or applied in a way that cannot be easily removed. Stickers or temporary labels are not acceptable. Once you have these images ready, upload them, provide your email address and phone number in the application form, and submit it. After your brand name is approved, or once you are successfully enrolled in brand registry, you can then move on to Step 2. Step 2 is the GTIN Exemption application. At this point, return to the Add a Product page and open the listing tool again. After your brand name has been approved or registered, it will now appear in the Brand Name drop-down menu. Select your brand, choose the option labeled, "I do not have a product ID," and click Nay. You should now see confirmation that your GTIN exemption has been granted. In some of Amazon's system notifications, this may appear as a UPC exemption, but the correct term is GTIN exemption. The exemption can take 24 to 48 hours to fully activate. If you cannot immediately submit the listing, save it as a draft and return later to finalize it. Once your exemption is live, you will be able to complete your product listing without needing a UPC or EIN. All you need to do is fill in the remaining required fields, save your draft, or submit it once everything is complete. From this point onward, your product listing will function normally without the need to purchase or use UPCs or EINs. There are a few basic requirements that must be met before you can apply for a GTN exemption. First, your product must not already be listed in the Amazon catalog. If it already exists under another seller's listing, you cannot request an exemption. Second, your product must not have an existing GS1 barcode or product ID. GTIN exemptions are only granted for products that truly have no globally recognized identifier. Finally, you must have category approval if the type of product you are selling requires it. Some categories on Amazon are restricted or gated, meaning they need pre-approval before new listings can be created. Only once these three conditions are satisfied should you proceed with the exemption process. Next, let us look at Amazon's eligibility guidelines for GTN exemption. Amazon clearly defines which types of products and sellers can apply. You can apply for a GTIN exemption if you sell private label or handmade products, such as custom branded or artisan-made items. You are also eligible if you manufacture, brand, or publish your own products that do not have barcodes assigned to them. GTIN exemption also applies to parts that naturally do not carry product IDs, such as automotive components, electronic parts, or mobile accessories. Bundled products can also qualify, such as a belt and wallet set, a beauty gift pack, or any custom combination of complementary items sold together. In addition, generic or unbranded products are eligible, provided they meet the requirements outlined in Amazon's generic product policy. These categories are especially useful for sellers developing their own brands, offering unique product bundles, or introducing original designs that cannot be identified by existing GTINs. However, while the GTIN exemption is flexible, it does not apply to every product. You cannot request a GTIN exemption if your product already has an existing GS1 approved barcode, or if it already appears in the Amazon catalog under an existing GTIN, EAN, UPC, or ISBN. The exemption also does not apply to branded products that require mandatory UPCs, which will often trigger the message, "Your account does not qualify." In addition, books cannot be listed under a generic publisher name, as Amazon requires all books to include their proper ISBN and publisher details. Lastly, if your product is already available in the Amazon catalog with a valid product identifier, it is not eligible for exemption. In other words, the GTIN exemption process is designed for products that are genuinely new, custom-made, or exclusive to your brand, not for items that already exist within Amazon's system. Understanding these requirements and restrictions ensures that you only apply for GTIN exemption when your product truly qualifies. It prevents unnecessary rejections and helps maintain compliance with Amazon's listing policies. By following these guidelines carefully, you can successfully create listings for your private label, handmade, or bundled products even without traditional barcodes, giving you full control over your catalog while remaining aligned with Amazon's rules. If you had a good time watching, go ahead and drop a comment, share it with your friends, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button so you're first in line for all the exciting videos coming up.